20-year-old, now turning 40, until finally, here I am, age 51. Through the window of computer science, I can now show you what lies ahead. Should I get to 60, or 70, or 80, or survive to 100? What these images can't convey is the onset of chronic disease and pain. Is this sentence inevitable? Should I accept it, even welcome it as the natural cycle of life, or should I fight it? And if I fight, can I succeed? Do I have the right to succeed? I want you to come with me on a journey where you may find some of the answers to those questions for yourself. The Roman-Irish Baths, Baden-Baden, Germany. Here, the prescription for staying young is relaxation, pleasure, and water. Nobody's clear whether it's the water that does the trick or everything else that comes with it. A chance to throw off inhibitions, enjoy good company, and culture. Loads of culture. Baden-Baden boasts 40 art galleries, orchestras, theatres, all harnessed to the serious business of keeping us fit and young. This leisurely, civilized approach belongs to an ancient tradition.
The spa tradition has a history of more than 5,000 years. And we are doing it since 2,000 years with the same water, but not with the same management.
Baden-Baden is just one of 400 European spas, a whole network built on water. 250,000 people pass through Baden-Baden every year to be splashed and pummeled, serenaded and pampered. And if they're German, their medical insurance or the state will pay for their pleasure. If only our quest for eternal youth could be so simple and so comforting. Today, the urge to study and control the effects of aging is a much more serious business.
All of us know the sad story of the aging process. We see skin wrinkling. We see a drop in muscle. You can see a gain in fat. In fact, as we go from the age of 30 to the age of 75, we double the amount of fat that we carry around with us, and unfortunately, we lose half of the muscle that we have.
By this measure, childhood is the time of our lives. At 12, the age of this gymnast, the body is at its most supple and efficient, the immune system at its peak. From this time forward, resistance to disease declines. Brain cells shrivel and die and are never replaced. In later life, the decline is visible and dramatic. Skin wrinkles, sight, hearing and memory are impaired. The skeleton thins and weakens. In the wealthy countries, the urge to slow this decline has become an obsession. It is reliably estimated that Americans spend $4 billion annually on lotions, potions, and pills to ward off aging. A new breed of prophet has ridden in on the boom with a sophisticated style in self-promotion. From California, Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw.
You are about to meet two of the most extraordinary, dynamic, and dedicated research scientists at work today. Their first book, Life Extension, was the #1 best-selling book on the charts for more than 10 months. Over 2 million copies were sold. This book has all the answers. It's the fountain of youth. Dirk Pearson and Sandy Shaw will show you the fascinating mysteries of the human body that they have been researching and living in their search for the secrets of life extension.
What are the secrets of life extension, Dirk?
Well, the most important concept is that aging is caused by mechanisms, and scientific research can elucidate the nature of these mechanisms. And once we know how the mechanisms work, it'll be possible to intervene in them, to slow down aging, perhaps even to reverse very substantial amounts of aging damage.
If we could actually keep up with the damage, with repair, we'd be able to live indefinitely, which would mean until an accident or suicide or murder would get us.
Hey, aging is something that we can understand. It's something that we can do something about. Let's spend the money on the scientific research and get on with doing something about it. Find out how it works and fix it. This is a very different attitude than, say, your grandfather had. Your grandfather took the idea of growing old and becoming decrepit to be as natural as the sun rising and as inevitable. It isn't as inevitable.
Okay, Dirk, you refuse to give in, and you've turned this house into an arsenal in the war against old age. Can you give me an idea of the weapons that you use in your daily battle?
First off, we take some nutrient supplements that provide the brain with raw materials to make more of neurotransmitters, such as noradrenaline, what you might call designer foods for the brain. We also take another supplement. These are raw materials from which the brain can make acetylcholine, which is another neurotransmitter which is involved in such things as focus, attention, memory, verbal behavior. Here you are, Sandy. Now, one of the things that we take ourselves may surprise people because it is not a vitamin. It's low-dose aspirin. We each take half an aspirin with the biggest meal of the day. Very large study has shown that you can reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease by about 41%.
Most people that are at risk of heart attacks are not taking aspirin. And what that means is there's about 100,000 premature deaths every year because of this.
It makes a very, very cheap insurance policy. We also take some additional vitamin C. Now, we take about 12 grams a day, spread out in 4 doses. We also take a high-potency multivitamin, multimineral, antioxidant nutrient supplement. About 800 units of vitamin E per day is reasonable. Beta-carotene, we suggest, that's the stuff that makes carrots orange. We suggest about 25,000 per day of that. But some of the other vitamins are quite important, too. For example, choline and B5.
Stuck in my throat.
The supplement also contains vitamin B6, which is very important, particularly to people on a high-protein diet for helping to prevent atherosclerosis. In addition, we take some supplemental niacin. A gram of niacin with each meal can work wonders with a lot of people. In double-blind placebo-controlled studies,
people who take megavitamins and take all these supplements are really doing more harm than they're doing good. And there's no, I think, objective evidence that says that they're aging any more successfully than people who don't.
Dr. Edward Schneider is director of one of the world's most prestigious aging research centers. At 51, he is 3 years older than Dirk or Sandy.
The megavitamin business is $1 billion business. And yet the average person at any age who's having a balanced diet really doesn't require vitamin supplement. The best prescription for aging is exercise. Exercise can slow down the aging of your muscles, your bones, your heart, and your lungs, and will do almost no harm.
1, 2, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, rock. 5, 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, rock.
Exercise in the fight against aging. Another multi-billion-dollar business.
Clap legs on, join behind. We'll have some fun when the clock strikes 1. We're gonna rock.
We're at the Pritikin Longevity Center, Santa Monica, California.
Rock around the clock tonight.
We're in the business of allowing us to live our maximum lifespan. The problem that happens in our culture is that by the time we hit 50 or 60, we may drag on another 15 years, but it's in misery. The quality of life is so poor. We're kept alive through drugs and heroic interventions such as these massive surgeries. The last 15 years of our life are hardly worth living. Do you want to live on medication that makes you feel terrible, that makes you impotent, that makes you have headaches, that makes you feel weak and tired? Do you want to not be able to run across the street if a car's going to chase you down? Do you want to play ball with your grandchildren? The choice is ours to make. We have tremendous amount of control over our destiny and quality of life.
Santa Monica, 6 a.m. The old Esplanade building has moved with the times. A resort hotel in the 30s, a drug rehabilitation center in the 70s, now the flagship of the Pritikin Empire.
Good morning. This is your wake-up call.
To undo the damage caused by overeating, under-exercise, and all the other afflictions of our affluent lifestyle, for $3,500 a week, the Pritikin Center offers a regime of hard labor on a third world diet. As the last guests drift downstairs to labor for their health, others take their place to labor for a living, each in their different ways, exercising for survival.
All right, now take it up to your interval high pace. Speed it up. How are you doing? Doing great? Yes, good job. You're doing fantastic. All right, what's for lunch today? Vegetable soup, southern vegetable. Your hearty soup is lima bean, marinated beans, and vegetable primavera. Sounds great.
The Pritikin menu is based on the diet of Indian tribes in Central America, where obesity and heart disease are virtually unknown. So vitamin pills are out. At $3,500 a week, beans and hard labor are in.
I think it's one of the great ironies of life that the only people that can afford the benefits of a third world diet are rich people in this country. Hopefully with enough education and enough sympathetic food manufacturers and enough people to motivate people correctly, that all will change. But right now, if you want to be a healthy person in this society, it clearly takes motivation.
And money.
And money.
Ready on the left, ready on the right.
Here's another answer to aging. Club together and fight back.
To all cars, an Alzheimer patient is missing from Camelot Care Center. He's wearing a white t-shirt, blue jeans, and a blue baseball cap.
10-4, I'm 10-17.
10-4.
We're in Sun City, Arizona. Population 46,000, minimum age of residence 55. If you're young, you don't belong here. In Sun City, the old are in charge.
560.
560.
Suspicious couple in a blue pickup truck. Two white males in the early 20s in the area of Del Webb and Tropicana Circle.
Security in Sun City is due in a large measure to the people all being of one age. Yeah. But if someone happens in and they don't belong here, why, it's readily apparent. They're probably young people or they're easily spotted. And,
Jack Goodridge was a rookie cop in the Sun City posse at the age of 67. Now, age 73, he's commander. Richard Schiefelbein is the baby of the force. He's just turned 60. Sun City was built by a property speculator on 5,000 acres of Arizona desert. In the heat of high summer, everyone seems to be indoors. One might as well be on the moon. Yet somehow the people here have managed to turn this isolation, along with disability, loneliness, and everything else that can come with old age, into positive triumphs. Sun City is impressive. There are 7 vast, air-conditioned leisure centers with bowling alleys, pool rooms, gymnasia, dance halls. There are 11 golf courses, 5 Olympic-sized swimming pools. There are orchestras, opera societies, drama groups. There are classes in woodwork, metalwork, ceramics, drawing, needlework, and self-improvement. There are dance groups specializing in everything from tango to tap, from hula hula to high kicks. The Sun City Ponds. Average age, 73.
Our children and grandchildren wouldn't have us anyplace else because they're so proud of the clippings and the TV. Oh, Grandma, I saw you on TV last night. Oh, Grandma, oh, this and that. They wouldn't have us move from here and lose all this.
But wouldn't they rather have you with them?
No, because it's more fun to brag about us than to be burdened with it.
people fool themselves or deny this ever-present march towards death. In reality, every day beyond 18 is a dying. What I do is I mask the reality. I change the reality. I allow the person to fool themselves for just a little while longer.
Dr. Michael Evan Sachs, one of America's leading plastic surgeons.
Plastic surgery has very little to do with vanity. It reaches into the depths of the human psyche, which is basically a fear of aging and a fear of death. The plastic surgeon has a tremendous power, and people want to be around that power. They get addicted to it to some extent. You might take a 40-year-old woman and make her eyes look 20. Within 3 or 4 years, they're coming back to the office asking what else can be done. They want to know what more can this power offer them. There's an awe related to that. And it's an interesting thing that I see when people are around me. They ask me questions, but what they really want to know is, will I one day help them? Will I be there for them? Am I going to be around? If I'm friendly with Dr. Sachs, then he'll help me one day when I need it, or when I feel I need it. And it's very, very fascinating. It really reaches in to a very deep fear of change. And psychiatrists will probably tell you that fear of change equals fear of dying.
Just how much time I've got left, and it's an eye blink, and it's not enough.
Mike Darwin and Carlos Mondragon of the Alcor Life Extension Foundation. Two men who are prepared to carry the pursuit of youth even beyond the grave.
If I asked everyone out there, are you afraid of going blind? Most people would say, well, yes, that would be a terrifying prospect. And if I said, are you afraid of going deaf? They'd say, absolutely. And if I said, are you afraid of losing your mind? They'd say, absolutely. And if I said, are you afraid of being paralyzed? They'd say, absolutely. Death is all of those things. It's very undesirable. Definitely not a state I want to have anything to do with. I want to go on living. I've got a lot to accomplish, and death does not figure in my equation for my future at all if there's any way out of it. And that's why I'm fighting it.
In this laboratory, human heads are prepared for freezing in the belief that one day the whole person can be brought back to life with a freshly cloned body.
Every cell of our bodies, except for our red blood cells, have all the genetic information necessary to make a reasonable copy of ourselves. So if we develop genetic engineering to the point where we can manipulate that information in the processes of human growth, we could conceivably grow a new and healthy body, much like the one the person had before, right around the existing brain.
So you freeze the dead head to preserve the brain in the hopes that one day the whole body can be restored, but at what age?
Probably grown to adult size, and unlike the one they left behind, young, healthy, vigorous, and ready for another go.
Hundreds of people all over the world have signed on for this process known as cryonic suspension. In the backwoods of Florida, one of them prepares for his eventual reunion with the wife he loved.
This front room was Terry's room. I do not care to make any changes in it. I intend to keep the house in trust so that when the day comes when Terry and I are reanimated, why, we can immediately return home. This organ was Terry's, and if I have one hope, it is that someday I will be able to sit down and again hear her playing. There is a certain feeling of sacredness about this house because we built it together, and we have never, ever thought of ever moving away or making any change whatsoever in it. And that is why I have no intention of selling it. I hope someday to come back here, and I would like to come back before she does so I can dust the furniture a bit.
Joe, what are the odds that this will ever happen?
Well, it is a gambler's gamble. If you like life, you can't take it with you, as they say, and what better way to gamble on? At best, you're going to be revived. At worst, you're only going to be dead.
Joe, what is all this around your bed?
This notice contains instructions to the emergency medical people telling them what to do if I am found dead or near death. The 2 bottles below are to replace the blood. This machine is an apnea monitor. It will signal by telephone to a monitoring station in Massachusetts. This is the belt of the apnea monitor, which I put around me when I go to sleep, so that it will signal if I have a cardiac arrest. This is very important because the freezing process must begin as soon as possible in order to minimize brain damage.
So what do you want to happen when the signal goes out that you're near to death?
I hope that Alcor's technicians will be present when I am declared dead, as they were when my wife was declared dead. They then can immediately take over, put a heart-lung machine in operation, start icing me to cool the body temperature, and take me to a mortuary or wherever they have arrangements made to continue the processing, just as they did with my wife.
Riverside Industrial Park, California, home of the Alcor Life Extension Foundation. July 13th, Terry Cannon's birthday. It is Joe's first visit here. The cost of the journey had previously kept him away.
So these are the vaults. We got them just after Terry's suspension. Hugh, if you would, go ahead.
The flasks in this chamber contain whole bodies as well as heads frozen in liquid nitrogen. The cost, $120,000 for whole body suspension, $41,000 if, like Joe, you choose only to preserve the head.
Joe, you can go on up now. Watch your step.
Mike, only Terry Cannon's head remains, and we know that every cell has been disrupted by freezing. What are the chances that Terry Cannon will ever be restored to life again?
I think the technical probability, personally, is about 50-50. The other half is a much less certain thing, and I'd put the probability of us having a stable world environment to allow us to get to the point where we can rescue her at much lower. And if you ask me personally, I'd put it at less than 10%.
Isn't Joe Cannon paying a very high price for those low odds?
For those of us as cryonicists, we've made our decision. We believe that life is the most important thing in the world, our lives and the lives of the people that we love and care about. And no price is too high to pay, and no odds are too small to take.
Scottsdale, Arizona, headquarters of the Eternal Flame Foundation.
There they are. The three people who are going right into the cell and ripping out the time clock. Chuck, Bernie, and Jim. Yeah, woo!
This crowd believes they've already achieved eternal life.
People eternal in the flesh.
I am Charles, who is physically immortal now.
I am physically immortal. I'd rather say I'm Bernadine. I'm here to stay.
We're immortal. We're not stupid. We realize how strong the intelligence and the programming of death is on this planet. And so we're out to find other people who will join in with us and turn that tide of death. We're out to give people another choice, that they can be totally alive, that we can have heaven here on earth. If we're
Charles, Bernadine, and Jim, the leaders of Flame, like to be thought of as a trinity, known to their followers as CBJ. So I'm facing a group of people in this room who are immortal.
Yes.
That's right.
Absolutely.
That's right.
We are now bringing about a cellular agreement of deathlessness, that we don't have to age and be subject to death.
Charles Brown.
Woo! When you leave and go to your different countries, go to your different homes, you will feel a cellular regeneration has taken place.
It is a mark of man's hunger for immortality that CBJ's simple, mind-over-matter message has attracted thousands of followers from a dozen countries.
Turn off the feelings of this new life within your body. You will not be able to go home and return to a pattern of death and dying. We are the people upon whom the ends of the age of sickness, disease, aging, and death, war, poverty, all of that is ending because of our appearance.
Believe it or not, within this outlandish message, there's a germ of distorted truth. Deep in an Arkansas pine forest is this massive complex originally built by the military for the manufacture of biological weapons and poison gas. When these weapons were outlawed by treaty agreements with the Soviets, the mission of this place was switched from death to life. Today, it is the largest facility in the world devoted to the study of aging. Bounded by walls 3 feet thick and linked by miles of corridors are the laboratories. Here, 350 scientists and technicians study aging and dementia in a population of 21,000 mice and rats. This gigantic enterprise is based on a simple discovery made nearly 60 years ago. A calorie-restricted diet slows the clock of aging, delaying the onset of degenerative disease and allowing the animal to survive well beyond the genetically determined lifespan of the species. This is a calorie-restricted rat, lean and fit at the age of 17 months. On the right, her exact contemporary, dull-eyed, listless, weighed down by a giant tumor. Her problem has been a lifetime of normal eating, and she is now hours away from death, while the restricted rats can expect to live on to 50 months, roughly 150 years in human terms. No one has been bold enough to suggest that the whole human race should be placed on a restricted diet. Instead, scientists here hope to mimic the benefits by identifying the body mechanisms and chemicals activated by calorie control through continuous examination and dissection of the body parts of these long-lived mice and rats. But why, in this overpopulated world, should any government be spending billions of dollars in order to learn the secrets of life extension from 21,000 mice and rats?
560. I have a 901.
More years have already been added to life in this century than in the previous 5,000 years of human history. At a Baltimore hospital, a 78-year-old heart attack victim is treated in the emergency ward, where 8 professionals are on hand. Thanks to phenomenal advances in medical science and standards of care, average life expectancy, which was only in the 40s at the beginning of this century, is now in the high 70s throughout the so-called developed world. The whole profile of our population is changing, and the implications are frightening.
In the upcoming decades, we could see between 60 and 80 million people over age 65. But that's a relatively healthy group. For those over age 85, there will be as many as 10 to 20 million people in that group. And the 80s and the late 70s are where the diseases and disorders take their toll. And this will cause an amazing stress on our healthcare system.
But there's much more to the nightmare than the threat of economic or social collapse. There's the personal cost. Many of our older people seem to have become victims of spectacular medical advances, which in many cases have only added years of disability rather than years of health.
That's the opposite of what we should be doing. Our goal should be to decrease those years, to increase the health span. And the way to do it is through research on aging. We have amazing new scientific tools. We could wipe out the diseases that today disable our older population. If we can do that, millions of baby boomers can look forward to decades of health and be freed of the prospect of disability, dependency, and disease. This would be an enormous economic saving to our country, a savings of trillions of dollars.
This message, with the emphasis on dollars to be saved, has set America on the most ambitious campaign ever mounted in the war against old age, and results are beginning to show. Hormone and drug therapies, already proved on laboratory animals, are now being tested on elderly humans. reversing the degenerative changes that come with old age, building back muscle, internal organs, skin and bone. But something far more radical could be just round the corner. A chance to crack the genetic codes that determine how we age and die. Smithfield, Virginia. A picnic hosted by the local biking fraternity. The guests of honor here are children who suffer from progeria, a condition caused by the mutation of a single gene which dramatically accelerates aging. Jason is 17 years old. These children are not only old in appearance, they suffer from degenerative diseases that afflict the elderly. Greg required a triple heart bypass after 2 severe strokes. This tragic condition has prompted scientists to ask 2 radical questions. If old age is a disease when it afflicts a 10-year-old, why is it no longer a disease when it afflicts an 80-year-old? And if one errant gene can cause this, what does that say about aging itself?
What this disease is telling us is that if you mutate one gene out of all the thousands of genes in our DNA, you get a premature aging of the entire organism, and it tells us that aging has a molecular basis that can be understood as a relatively simple phenomenon.
Dr. Michael West is at the forefront of aging research.
In the past, people have looked at age-related changes in tissues like the skin and thought that they must be hopelessly complex. The position of science historically has been that aging is a lot like the aging of a car. In the case of an aging car, wear and tear, friction on the tires is causing the tires to be torn down. Instead of thinking about aging as a wear and tear phenomenon, we now think of aging as a programmed phenomenon, programmed by certain genetic changes in individual cells in our body. To use the car analogy, we now think of aging working more like a time bomb placed against key components in the car.
According to this view, our brains and our bodies are potentially immortal. Unlike the aging car, we have within us the power to heal, to renew, to regenerate. Our cells continue to divide and replicate through 60 generations until nature's time bombs go off, renewal stops, the cells become senescent. It is as though nature is deliberately destroying her own perfect creation to clear the way for the next generation once we have served our evolutionary purpose. The challenge is to locate nature's time bombs and defuse them. In his Dallas laboratory, Dr. West has already made skin, brain, and cartilage cells immortal. He has made old cells young again, such that skin of a 92-year-old man regains the cellular structure of child skin.
And we can literally shift cells between an aged or senescent state and an immortal state, and back and forth.
Six venture capitalists have now backed Mike West's research with a multi-million-dollar investment.
Is the first person that I've found that is really doing something about curing this old age disease.
Miller Qualls, retired Houston oil man who has offered a bounty to any scientist who can find the cure for aging by the year 2000. And Dave Brown, property developer, multimillionaire, and a generous benefactor of aging research.
A good place for me to put my money is to back his project. To me, it seems like the wonderful human body and the wonderful human brain is not meant to just be here for, say, 40 effective years, from 25 to 65. The body is so complicated and so wonderful, I think it is basically designed to last several hundred years and not have to just die off after 40 productive years.
We really are in reach of these hugely extended lifespans. Do you ever think seriously about the consequences?
I certainly do. This will be the most phenomenal change in our entire society structure of any development in human history.
Do you agree with that, Miller?
Yes, I think so too. It's actually the fountain of youth that we've always been finding, always been hunting for. Now we have a chance to find it because we know so much about the human DNA molecule. We're on the verge of knowing enough about aging to prevent it.
And the population problem on this overcrowded planet?
Everyone's concerned about that, but I think that's mostly a problem, an engineering problem, a marketing problem, a distribution problem. I think we have the resources and the energy to deal with a vastly increased population, and I just don't see that as a reason not to go forward.
Mike, the justification for aging research is improved health in old age, but your research raises the possibility of hugely extended lifespans.
Well, what's the alternative? Are we going to say that we need to force people to die when they don't want to die to make room for a new generation? There are those who would say that we should have aging and death, so new generations of people can come. We can have new Mozarts and new Beethovens. After all, we'd never have them, would we, if just the same people lived forever? That's a difficult question. The only logical approach to this thing is to say that we are going to beat back the barriers of aging and improve human health, and someone else will have to worry about the consequences.
Someone else to worry about the consequences. In the presence of research scientists like Dr. Fahey of the American Red Cross, one senses that these consequences may be on an unimaginable scale.
If science progresses the way it looks to me, it will. I see no inherent limitation on how long we can live. This is effectively immortality. People have estimated that if we did not age at all, and if we vigorously moved to reduce the chance of dying from an accident, half of us would live to the age of 100,000 years. Of the ones that survive to that age, half would live for another 100,000 years. You have to ask yourself how your life would be different and how your outlook would be different if you had 200,000 years to look forward to. It's obviously a radical change of cosmic proportions if we were able to achieve it. And I've seen nothing so far which makes me believe that that sort of development is impossible.
200,000 years of life, a radical change of cosmic proportions. Are any phrases grand enough to convey the thought? No new Beethovens, no new Mozarts or Bachs or Titians, Rembrandt, Shakespeare's, Galileos or Wrens. No endings, and therefore no new beginnings. $200,000 years of life. No new blood, no new talent. Generations competing for space on this earth, the immortal rich. A journey that began in the steam baths of Baden-Baden and carried us gently through vanities and foibles towards the nobler ambition of a dignified and kindly old age, has finally taken us towards the unthinkable, into the presence of a child, this child of today. A child that might never age or die. The last stop on our journey was in France, at the home of our friends the Boisdrons. Every Sunday, 4 generations gather round this table. It seemed the perfect place to talk about youth and age. Odette has lost her husband, and her son Remy is now the head of this family. A perfect family, she told us. A family who spoil her. She likened herself to an old cat, purring, as she put it, with satisfaction in her armchair with her books, her crochet, her knitting. Grandpa Maurice agreed. He's enjoying his old age with his friends, his garden, and his family. But nothing is more important to him than his family. And immortality? What does he think of immortality? Nothing. We told them about our journey in search of eternal youth and eternal life, and about the people we'd met on the way. Dirk and Sandy, fighting off old age with buckets of vitamins. The folk at the Pritikin Center, chasing the same dream, but through hard labor and a third world diet. We talked about Sun City, a place built exclusively for the old and governed by the old in the interests of the old. Sun City, where they hope to dance until they drop. They don't like young people, is that it? Young and old should live together, as we do. I don't understand those people. We told the family about Joe Cannon, who has preserved his wife's head out of love. I too have lost loved ones, but I keep their photos on the sideboard, not their heads. We describe CBJ and their band of followers, immortalists who believe they will be together on this earth forever. What? Living for centuries with her? But then we explained that this was no laughing matter, that serious scientists were now working to break the codes of aging and death. What pleasure could there be in seeing the same faces for centuries? Births, marriages, funerals, joy and sadness, the continual turning of the page. That's what life was meant to be. It would be too much to live forever. You'd get sick of it all. If you've had your life, you shouldn't stand in the way of the young. If immortality exists, it's within life. We are living today. We are alive. We're having a good time, aren't we, Grandma and Grandpa? And here we were reminded of another family, of Debbie, who looked into her mother's face and saw old age as a horror. Debbie, prompted by her own daughter Cheryl to try to postpone this fate with plastic surgery.
Really fun.
Would they ever consider plastic surgery?
Ma grand-mère. Elle est très belle.
My grandmother, she is very beautiful.
Et moi aussi.
Me too.
Elle est jalouse, hein?
Parce que ma sœur est plus...
My sister's probably more worried about the way she looks than Grandma is.
Que ma grand-mère.
Grandma doesn't know it, but she's truly beautiful.